Hello, how's everyone doing? I hope you're coping with the heat better than I am. If you happen to be along this, what do you call it, latitude. Um, yeah, it's, actually this camera doesn't replicate my lobstery. I was on a work meeting earlier, and you know when you see yourself on screen, and I just thought, A, I've turned into my dad. B, lobster tone. This camera does a sort of more orangey thing, so I'm just going to go with that. Anyway, this is going to be a very rough kind of quick rundown of I've not done a lot of binging lately. I need to get rid of stuff. The clutter in here, you're only going to get a small idea from what you can see of the clutter in here, but yeah, it needs addressing. So I shouldn't really be acquiring. However, you know how it goes. We can't help ourselves, can we? Anyway, so a return to the little Sussex village bookshop the other day, which I came back with. Okay, what to do first? All right, we'll do. Now, I'm not a big consumer generally of the hard-boiled type noirish detective novel. However, actually, for years, as far as I knew, The Big Sleep was a highlight of the Third Only Ones album. If you know, you know. But turns out it's a book as well. Who'd have known? Yeah, these were £3 a pop incidentally, which isn't too bad. For a second-hand place. Oh, look, so I hadn't realised this. Somebody has left notes. 7th December 2018. There you go. You get. I can just cheat and read that instead. That's brilliant. Who did this? Anyway, apart from that, I also picked up, being the war bore type that I can be, another of those RAF memoirs, the big show. I love the way a French pilot has picked up those very English RAFisms. The Big Show. So this is the memoir of the distinguished wartime pilot Pierre. Oh, my pronunciation. I'm sorry, Pierre Closterman. DFC, Distinguished Flying Cross, possibly. Now this, I'm about halfway through this. He doesn't in the intro make any claims about this as being a great work of fiction. I think, sorry, not a work of literature, not any great work of literature. This is basically cobbled together from the notes he kept in order to write to his parents, who I think, or his dad, who I think his dad was out in Africa somewhere during the course of the war, and Pierre was largely based in England. Although I've got to the point where I think it's potentially quite an emotional moment in this, where he and a fellow French pilot are told, a few days after D-Day in 1944, yeah, you can now go and base yourselves on an airfield in French soil, which of course is great significance to an exiled French pilot in those years. Unfortunately, the given airfield seems to be little more than a dust bowl when he gets there, and it's a dust bowl that gets bombed nightly by the Luftwaffe's bomber arm, the fighter arm, famously largely conspicuous by their absence during the Normandy campaign. But I think the guys in the Heikels and the Dorniers and some of the Junkers and so on were visiting at night. But anyway, I'm about actually just more than halfway in, but pretty readable as one of these wartime type memoirs goes. Anyway, last and it surprised me. I'd expected to see James Blish's name on this, a Star Trek novelisation. This, I wasn't familiar with this one. Star Trek Log 5. So evidently Star Trek Log was a series. Now, on closer inspection, like I've probably pointed out before, I quite like Star Trek, but you couldn't really call me a Trekkie. But this series was based on the animated. Do you remember those animated ones that went out? I suppose they were probably 70s vintage, and I remember them being fairly cheap looking, if I'm going to be blunt. But you know, of course, the series famously folded, and was, you know, it wasn't the hit it later turned out to be during its initial run. So they, you know, they folded on the series, the proper series, I suppose, prematurely, and then as a sort of, once they realised that it was becoming a sleeper hit, I suppose, to plug the gap, they did this very quickie knockoff cartoon spin-off of it. So I think I'll recognise him from that. He was this kind of extra crew member that hadn't, I believe, featured in the original series. I don't know his name or anything, but yeah, so I never expected to see that, a novelisation of that animated series. That's just odd. But anyway, that's not bad for £3 each. I will keep this short, so thank you again. Hope everyone's doing all right, and more very soon. Thank you.